Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here with a review of the Armored Super Mega Red Ranger and Armored Mighty Morphin Green Ranger. This is a continuation from the Armored line we got in Megaforce. We've previously seen an Armored White Ranger figure, Armored Red Mighty Morphin Ranger figure with the Green Ranger armor, and then Armored Ultra Mode Megaforce Red and Blue. So we start off here with Green and Red, and obviously Red doesn't have any type of armor, but they're doing something different with it. Let's go ahead and we'll take a quick look at the box for both of them. They're both pretty much the same thing. I'm just going to kind of move them out of the way here, just so you know what I'm doing. Tommy just fell over. You got a picture of Super Megaforce Red right there. It shows the figure. It says Armored Super Mega Red Ranger, even though it doesn't really have any armor. And I just realized that he's missing his collar. I was like, man, he looks naked. Let's get that right. I can't believe he started the review naked. We're like in his dream where he's naked, going to class. Anyway, so that reminded me of that. And on the back there it shows exactly what I was just talking about, other people from that line, and then an advertisement for the keys, and then it shows that what they did differently with this is, as opposed to having an armor gimmick other than his collar detaching, he comes with various weapons from previous Ranger series, which makes kind of sense given the, you know, past Ranger motif of this season. You got one for Wild Force, Samurai, SPD, you have one for Zeo, and this shows Wild Force 1 again. It shows all of them over here, and then it shows kind of examples. It's kind of like a figure arts box. So you got SPD, Samurai, Zeo, Jungle Fury, Mystic Force, and then you got his own weapons, Super Mega Blade, and the Blaster. So yeah, because he didn't have an armor of any kind, that's what they included, is just a bunch of weapons from previous series for him to wield. The box of the Green Ranger is pretty much the same. You get picture here of the American version. You can tell by the cloth shield. And then just some pictures on the side, and on the back it shows that he's kind of a normal armored figure. And you can see the light from the camera there. So anyway, let's pick him up off the ground. So we'll go ahead and actually start with Super Mega Red, since that's how we do with the boxes. So obviously you can tell these are much more of a muscly type Power Rangers figure, which is pretty much the stereotype of the figures. And to be honest, I really kind of dig these figures. I don't mind the muscly motif for these that much. So long as we have some figures that don't do the over muscle type thing, I don't mind having some like this, which in my opinion, for the most part, look pretty cool. And these aren't that bad, and they kind of fit in with those 15th anniversary figures we got previously. Speaking to him specifically, though, he's probably my least favorite of all the armored figures we've gotten from the last year and the current year, mainly because his head seems really tiny in proportion to his body, which is a total walking steroid joke. But yeah, you can see his head just looks pretty tiny. If it would have just been a little bit bigger, he definitely looks like a roid head. You see the tiny head, thick neck, and then the muscly body. So he's definitely my least favorite standalone. Detail-wise, though, he's actually not that bad other than the misproportioned head. I mean, the helmet paint is done well. All the colors on him are done fairly well. There is a bit color discrepancy between the plastics, but it's not that noticeable. But yeah, other than that, like the details on him and stuff are pretty well done. It's just he has a little bit of a steroid problem. And as you saw, because of my incompetence, his collar does come off, so you can switch that off to anybody. And that's pretty much the extent of his armored gimmick. Articulation-wise, both of these are the same base mold for articulation, so I'm just going to use him as the example. You've got a hinge joint here, so you get some 360 and in and out articulation. Pretty solid range of movement there. Some swiveling here at his arm. You've got a single elbow joint here. His little hand swivels on a ball joint there, so that's pretty nicely done. You can see here there is some chest and waist movement, so some pretty good articulation. You've got a 360 ball joint here on his leg. This little sort of extended coat piece does block it a little bit, but I do find it to be a smidge more flexible than the 5-inch figures. You got a single knee joint here, swiveling if I didn't already show it. And then his foot here is on a bit of a hinge joint as well. And then his head can move around 360. It's a bit stiff, but no up and down movement. But overall, he's pretty solidly articulated, or just a little bit better than the 5-inch figures. And yeah, so no armor other than the collar, but like I showed you on the back, he does come with a bunch of different weapons. He's got his own weapons, which is the Super Mega Saber, which they're pretty traditional Bandai of America non-painted weapons, but at least this one has some two different shades. You got the main red, and then the silver for the blade, and then you've got the Super Mega Blaster here, with red and a little bit of black. So at least that's fine. And then you sort of have some Generations weapon. You get Zeo Ranger 5's weapon here, the sword, which is done in sort of the more traditional gray style of their weapons. And then also in the gray style you get Mystic Force Red's saber. And then the Magistaff, there we go, Magistaff sword, but I was like, God, what is that called? The Mystic Force Saber. And then the Jungle Chucks, Jungle Fury Reds, which is just done in a completely red plastic. You've got the Fire Smasher, Samurai Red Rangers, which are a pretty giant weapon. And then you've got the Delta Blasters, SPD Reds. I feel like that's wrong, but I could be delusional. And then Wild Force Red's, the little punchy weapon. It's like I'm trying to think of the word, an exaggerated brass knuckles. I don't know where I was going with that. It would have been better delivery if I could think of the joke quicker. But anyway, I think that is pretty neat, to be honest. I wondered when we found out that they were going to be doing this line again, how they were going to do it for Super Megaforce, since they don't have like an Ultra Mode or something like that. And I think the past weapons thing was a neat idea. I probably won't use it in my displays, but it's a good playability for kids or just for collectors who want to have a unique display. So I thought that was a pretty solid move. I kind of hope we get at least blue and greens to see what weapons they would come with. I was kind of disappointed we never got whatchamacallit. We never got Black Ranger from regular Megaforce. There we go. So anyway, now let's take a look at Mighty Morphin Green. I already have the liberty of putting a shield on there. Honestly, I really dig this figure. If you watch any of my reviews, you know I'm pretty fatigued at the onslaught of Mighty Morphin merchandise, but still, his design is one of my favorites, and for whatever reason, I think that his figure in this style actually looks pretty cool. I don't know, it looks in a way almost stylized. I mean, obviously Green Ranger's not as buff, but just everything in general kind of comes together in a way I can't describe that I think has this really neat stylized look, and I just kind of really dig the figure. They did a fairly solid job on the details. I mean, there's really not much you can do with them MPR suits because they're pretty basic. I mean, the head sculpt is done fairly well, I think, and they got most of the details there you need. Here's the armor here, which is obviously removable, which I'll show in just a second, but the color's all fine on that. The green looks fine. The belt buckle looks fine. I mean, you got the fully etched out coin there pretty much. I mean, it's not hyper detailed or anything, but you still tell what it is, and I think it bounces off the white nicely to create a nice effect. And like I said, the green plastic looks good. You got the Dragon Dagger here as his only weapon, which is primarily black. You got a little bit of green there, and actually the coin detail there, so not too bad. And the articulation is obviously the same as Red over here, other than just this possibly getting in your way a little bit. But yeah, other than that, I really dig this figure. I'm not entirely sure what it is about it, but I just think the style of him looks pretty cool. For the armor pieces, you have these cuff pieces, which all you do is detach this and slide them up here, and you kind of mold them to where his muscles are. I don't want to show it just because it is a bit of a pain to get them to stay, but you pretty much get the idea. And for the armor pieces, it separates. This is the back piece. You just line these all these pegs up here, and you can take it off, and he's just generic under there. And you know, you can do stuff like swap it out with Red. I'm not going to do it just because you get the idea. That seems pretty boring. I am going to do one combo here, which I'll mention in a brief second. But yeah, pretty much the same idea as the Mighty Morphin Red Ranger, which we already got. And you can mix and match with anybody. I mean, my favorite personal combination is mixing and matching him with armed Red Ranger. I mean, that's completely different. But yeah, I hate to repeat myself, but I really dig the Green Ranger figure for some reason. So pretty neat. So one last thing I'm going to do here before we get to the final verdict is I'm going to mix-match Super Megaforce Red here with the Ultra Armor from regular Megaforce Red, just because I think it would be a neat idea since we have a unique setup here of them being in the different shows. So let me just cut away to that. Alright, so here we have those combinations. I thought they were just kind of a neat idea. I mean, in particularly this one, just because, you know, we have such a unique situation here because of Goseiger and Gokaiger sort of being blended. I thought it was kind of a neat idea to have him use the Ultra Mode armor in his Super Mode, which I doubt they would ever do in the show, but I feel like it's a possibility. I mean, like, it's logical possibility, not a possibility that they would do it. So I just thought it was kind of neat, and it doesn't look half bad, and like I said, I thought it was neat because of it, you know, having a unique setup. And then just because he was kind of sitting here, I put Super Megaforce's red collar on him, and that actually kind of makes him look a little neat. And you see he has his cuffs here, because to switch this out, I did have to do a little more messing around. I mean, you can just put the shoulder pads and the chest armor on just fine, but you can't really put the arms on without switching them out, so I completely swapped out his wrists, which you're not really supposed to do, but I did it because I thought it would make it look cooler. The only thing I really can't replicate is these things down here. There might be a way to, like, detach the legs and do essentially what I did with the arms, but I didn't feel like it. But you have to detach the arms to do that. But still, I thought it was a neat idea, and it kind of gives you an idea of more of the playability of the line. So like I said, I doubt we'll ever see it, but still, it's something that's plausible and would be nice to see something unique since we have such a unique setup. Alright, so let's head back to normal. Alright, so that was that combo. I thought that was just a pretty neat thing to do, and like I said, I cut away in it just because it was a little more involved. But here they are just next to each other. Here is regular Ultra Megaforce Red and Super Megaforce Red. I think they got the proportions on his helmet a lot better. I like this figure a lot better. But yeah, overall, I still do dig this line. I know it's kind of hit and miss for a lot of people, but if you don't mind these sort of muscly stylized type figures, I can recommend them. I think they're pretty fun. They have a good amount of articulation for PR figures, so you can get some pretty decent poses out of them. They're pretty well detailed, and the various armor options that you can mismatch with all the other ones, and the weapon options for Red Ranger, and you can even give him the Zeo sword because, you know, it's going to be his later. It's just a lot of fun, I think. I mean, it's not like the most fun line ever, but still creates some unique things, and I kind of dig it. Also, before I forget, I almost forgot to mention, they also do come with changeable hands. They obviously each have the holding weapons hands here, and then they each have their own set of, I have them all mixed together, so their own set of just kind of regular splayed open hands. So that's neat. So yeah, overall I can recommend these if you like this style of figure. It's basically whether you're into muscles or not. That sounded weird. So I'm gonna go. Until next time, make sure you check out the crazy podcast at writersrangersrambles.com. Till next time, it's Dawson Ryder, signing out.